Hi everyone, and welcome to another Green Reviews working group meeting. Today we are, well, before I announce that we'll talk about the agenda, this is a CNCF meeting, and we abide by the code of conduct, which can be summarized to everyone be excellent to each other. I don't believe we have any new members today. So let's get started. There is a nomination for Flavia as tech lead. I think everyone here has already voted. But yeah, Flavia has been part of the working group for a long time, and we are trying to be also more sustainable with the leadership by growing it so we can distribute the workload. Flavia has a ton of experience, literally so many years of experience, and have been really helpful with writing the proposals and guiding the work. So thank you, Leo, for sharing the meeting notes. Yeah, please add your names. I didn't mean that, but I was very impressed. You've done so much. It's very cool. Yes. So yeah, so we are looking for volunteers also for this issue. It's part of proposal 2. You can see my whole screen, I think. Let me know if you can't see it. But so it's to create the Falco benchmark workflow itself. We need to refactor what we had before. As in, we have the Kubernetes manifest in this link, and they need to be changed into a GitHub action resource, as in a benchmark workflow, as written in proposal 2. There's an example in the proposal itself for how this should be written. I mean, it would be great if someone else would like to do this. Otherwise, I feel like maybe the first example, I wouldn't mind doing this also just to get the first example out, and I think it will just be easier from there on. And yeah, I don't know, Flavia, if you want to pair with me, but since we did the proposal 2.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, let's pair on it and get it out the door. So then from then on, it will be easier once we have like a first example.
Yes, I think that would be great because that also will wrap up the work for proposal 2. Because Valeria, it's great that you worked on the previous issue, and having the workflow we can test end to end, and then we can wrap up the proposal 2 work and move everything across to proposal 3. So again, Flavia, if you're able to do that, then that would be great. Because given it's also the first sort of workflow we're creating in this format, we'll then have examples for other workflows that could go forward.
Valeria?
Yeah, will working this issue solve the problem we had on my PR? Because the PR I opened that we actually merged failed, but I didn't have time to look at it. I copied and pasted the link to the PR.
Yes, well, I think it will resolve it because yeah, I missed it as well in CI before I merged it. But the error was because the workflow was empty. And so
Yeah.
we could, spend some time adding like conditional logic to handle the workflow being empty. But I think we're better just to move forward and, create the workflow, and then we can test the whole thing end to end. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks.
Yes, because otherwise I think sort of spending the time adding this conditional logic doesn't really help, because I think we'll always be in the situation where we want to run at least some benchmarks.
I'm just gonna write that it should solve this.
Mm-hmm. And if eventually it doesn't solve it, then we can look at it later.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm very keen to just finish the implementation for proposal 2 so that we can really focus on proposal 3. That would be really great. Speaking of, Ross, would you like to talk about the storage options? Which issue did you add it to?
Yes, I think I pasted it in the proposal issue. But actually, Flavia, the comment you added in the PR already, I think, was really useful, because it listed what's the data that we want to store. And I think if we look at that as well, we'll have some kind of context, and then I can cover the long-term storage options afterwards. But I think having that kind of context of what we want to store, I think, will help. Let me just find a link for that.
Also because, yeah, do we want to store sorry, one thing at a time. Let's look at this.
Yes, yeah, this was it. This was the, because I think Leo, your feedback on kind of being more specific on what we want to store, I think helps here, because when we can see kind of what's the data you want to store, how much data it is, we can then feed that into the storage options discussion. Yeah, because I think we've got kind of the results themselves for the metrics that we're interested in. We've got the energy metrics, and then the 3 SRE type metrics that Falco are interested in. I think we'll have those results, and then we'll have the metadata about the run as well, like kind of which project, which configuration. Because I think in the proposal we just sort of talked about the 2 types of metrics, but then I think that metadata is also useful, so we can see, what was this run when we're looking at it like 6 months later or something. Yes, so my thinking was, is this kind of a good set of data to store? And then I can present just the write-up I did of the storage options.
So these are Prometheus metrics, at least, because there's also different types of metrics, such as, I think, yeah, maybe we should make a table out of this and write what is generating the metric, because this could be the pipeline itself, whereas this is Prometheus.
Yes, and if you just scroll in, because I just replied as well. Actually, the 3 metrics, I wasn't sure where they were coming from, but they're actually C advisor metrics. So Prometheus is scraping them from the kubelet. So that was what I was thinking, because originally we were also thinking about maybe just connecting to Kepler directly and scraping Kepler, but the problem is we would also need to connect to the kubelet as well. So that's why I'm thinking maybe just querying Prometheus itself is better, because then we can access any metric that's in Prometheus.
Right. So, Yep. I agree that querying from Prometheus is the best option, and there's two sources of the metrics. There's either the project name and identifier that's coming from the pipeline configuration, the JSON file essentially, and then there's Prometheus. But then the pipeline itself could aggregate those metrics by, for example, querying Prometheus directly and getting that data, and then pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking we would query Prometheus and we'd have kind of the snapshot of what were the values during this pipeline run. And then at the end of the run, we would save those results we'd calculated along with the other metadata. And some of that, like the project name and the configuration, will come from the pipeline parameters. But that's why we were also thinking don't think it's not going to be a large volume, at least for start, because at the moment we run the pipeline once per day per configuration. So we have like 3 runs. Even if we did it per release of Falco, it's unlikely to have multiple releases in a day. So it's a kind of quite a low volume of data. And this is when I was looking at the options. I looked first at Git, similar to Kepler running SCI. So the idea would be we would just have the data as JSON or maybe Markdown, and then we would commit it from the pipeline run. And the sort of benefit is it's that simple to do. It's also nice because it's publicly accessible. The downsides are it being static, and it's going to be hard to compare results or do anything kind of more dynamic. But maybe as a first pass, it means we'd have the data. And one thing I like as well is we'd have it outside of the cluster. So if we have any problems with the cluster, we'd still have an archive of results. And then so after Git, I looked a bit at what options we have in terms of object storage. And sort of the obvious one would be S3 because we already have the AWS bucket. The downside to that one is it's not going to be as visible because the bucket's private, so you can't just browse it as you could on GitHub for having Git as an option. It's a cloud service which we try to avoid when we can. And then so I looked at a couple of other options that were kind of S3 compatible, which was Minio and then Ozone, which was an Apache project. I think that Mitch suggested previously. The problem with running our own object storage is we would probably need another Equinix node to run it, and then we would still need a backup outside of the Equinix server, so it doesn't really help that much. And then so just finally, the third option I looked at was if we actually have the storage within the cluster. And so we could use that because we already have the cluster running, but we would still need an external backup in case something happens to the cluster. But maybe we could use S3 as a backup for that. But yeah, that was just the 3 options I kind of looked at. I mean, to me, probably either Git or in-cluster storage are the 2 most promising. But we can also see when we're going to what's next with the proposal. I can integrate this into the proposal. I'm also interested to see what people think on this in terms of the storage options.
I agree that
Yes, sorry,
having everything, yeah, having everything in the open is a priority. I had not thought of the in-cluster storage with a backup. What would the external backup be like? What would that be?
Yes, I was thinking probably to use S3 or something S3 compatible to use kind of object storage for the backup. There's tools like Valero maybe that we could run to do that. But we would still think we would probably need to use AWS for that. And then so we're back to using a cloud service. I think one of the benefits of Git is the data then is publicly accessible.
Yeah, and if the backup is not publicly accessible, that's okay, as long as the primary source is, right?
Yes,
So
yeah, for example, we could have Grafana as the primary source, and then just have have an external backup, so we have the data we need long term from the cluster.
I'm interested to hear also from Leo, Leo, you offer a perspective often about the openness of what we have. Do you, what's your perspective on the data, for example, not being publicly accessible if it's on S3 or something like that? Actually, I'm not sure if it would still be queryable from Grafana, so it would be public in that way.
So I haven't checked out this issue, so I'm not sure about everything that's in it. In general, I think we don't necessarily need to make all the infrastructure public. At least, I mean, the configuration, everything is public, and we try to have as much as public as possible. However, I mean, there's like multiple ways how we can deal about it, right? So we can also have like a bulk of data. If there's like some research project, something like this inside the tag, we can just download the bulk of data or build something in the future. But I think right now this is not really like a requirement, right? So I think if depending on the infrastructure, it's generally you don't want to have like everything public in the internet, right? There should be like some kind of authentication mechanism that we create like a user, and the user has access to maybe the data. So we can add something like this. We don't necessarily should publish everything, I guess. And also if we connect it to dev stats, the result of the data will be public. So I think the analytics part, this should definitely be public so people can reach it, and the output of the working group has a meaning and can be used and so on. But all the raw data and all the raw metrics and everything, yeah, this.
I am wondering what they're using as long-term storage here.
I'm not sure, but I'm sure that we can ask some people from the CNCF that built the system.
You see what I mean, right? I'm wondering if we can piggyback
If I
on
can just
their
forward
work.
it or add like a, yeah.
Yes. If
Probably
they have,
check.
if they're already hosting a database and we could make use of that, that would make our life easier.
Yeah. I can ask someone from the CNCF if they mind sharing some details about how this is run. I kind of expect that there is a CNCF repository which mirrors this website. I guess. I'm not sure. DevStats maybe. Is there a repository where we can take a look? Let's see. There is DevStats.
And Dipankar, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I just got it from this docs. Basically, I was thinking of, are we looking onto options for long-term storage for all the reports or analytics we generated so far from any like the SEO and part, all those stuff, no? SEO and the metrics which we generate from the benchmarking of the projects.
Yeah, I'll share this. There's been a couple of links. So we're looking at this, and the metric specifically is, well, we have a list for now here.
Okay, so okay, I will check it. But so far, what I am able to understand is we will be storing this metrics in some form of a long storage or kind of stuff, na? Like S3 and all those stuff. And later as in the issue I am seeing, or the report one, proposal 3 report, there we are thinking of creating analytic like the PDF kind of stuff, or the analysis of stuff, or we are thinking of raw data, as in those metrics like the numbers and all those.
I think this is looking more like the raw data, not the
Okay.
analytics.
Okay. Got it. If but I am not sure. Ross can clarify that thing. What we meant by storing the raw metrics in Git, that I couldn't understand. Yeah.
So that would be, I mean, maybe Ross wants to expand on that. It would be stored in Git, as in a JSON object or Markdown that is saved in the repo itself.
Okay. Okay. So basically, we are thinking of versioning those things.
Yeah, just appending and version, like pushing, and that's it.
Okay.
Yes, because I think these are the results we're going to want to store long term. So, like for example, for the last 5 versions of Falco, what were the results? So it's more about the archive what we want to have long term. But I think that's like a subset of the data. We don't need, for example, all the Kepler metrics for the period. We just need to save what were our results per pipeline run. And yeah, I looked a bit at the DevStats code and saw they have some like Grafana dashboards that are public, but I couldn't really see where the storage actually was. So if we can have a chat with them, and even for example, if we could write to that Postgres database, then that would be really useful to know, because we have the kind of long-term goal of having the data published into DevStats. I think we're still missing quite a few details about how that process would work.
Okay. Yeah, understood.
Ross, what do you think about this option of having potentially, yeah, this, can we add this option also, or to this list, like a potential other storage would be the database that is already hosted by other folks in the CNCF?
Yes, that'd be great. And I think, like, for example, Postgres has some JSON support. So if we could, at the end of our run, we generate some JSON, which is our kind of results for that run. And if we could save that to that database, that will be great, because then we want to have the data published in DevStats of visibility, but it would also help us because we wouldn't need to run, for example, like a HA Postgres within our cluster. We could use the one that's already out there.
And Leo, when would you be able to, or I don't know if you're able to ask or who should ask? I mean, I don't know how should we communicate this?
With the DevStats team, or with the people that do the DevStats, or what?
Yeah, like with
I would just reach out to Lucas over the CNCF Slack and ask if he has time next meeting, or to async. So link the issue, write down some questions.
Yeah, if Lucas can come to the next meeting. We also or like the tag meeting or working group meeting, either whenever is okay for them. If the time doesn't work, yeah, async. If you'd like to direct them to the channel, that would be awesome. Whatever is easiest. Like, it's also okay if you want to talk to Lucas first. Thank you.
Should I contact him, or would you like to do it?
I would super appreciate if you have time, because right now it's hard for me to do that.
No worries.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I mean, it would be good to have that option.
Also one question. If we are thinking of going towards the Postgres route, are we also thinking to have backups as well for our metrics, or we'll just rely on Postgres for that if we are going to that route?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I would focus on the results for now. So we focus on how we can have the results of the test runs stored somewhere long term. The challenge will be the Prometheus metrics would probably expire after a certain period, because I think we're using the default retention periods, so we might lose those metrics. But I'm not sure how how big an issue that is. I think especially if we focus on storing the results and we have kind of a long-term archive with a good backup, then at least then we can always go back and check what the results were, even if, for example, we need to rebuild the cluster or something, so that we have those results in a known format, and we can store them long term.
Okay.
But I can definitely I'll add Postgres and the DevStats database as an option, and then once you had a chance to chat with Lucas and we know more details, we can see whether that's whether it's a practical route or not. But I think it is quite appealing for a couple of reasons.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, perfect. Yeah, please do. Great. Okay. It's great that we're listing all of our options, because we do need this, and it would be great if we can use something that's already hosted by another CNCF project. Or yeah, another, not CNCF project, but CNCF group of people. Yes, and I was surprised too to see that there's no issue for integrating with DevStats. I guess it's that we just have not gotten there yet. But potentially if we are pushing to the same database, that integration would be a lot easier. if someone would like to create an issue for integrating with dev sites, that would be nice. But also that will come. Yes, Leo?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we can definitely open up an issue, but probably it would be good to first talk to Lucas or somebody else about the details, right? Because we're not sure about the details.
Yeah. We kept pushing that in the roadmap ahead, like further away. So I don't want us to get too far ahead, because then it adds stress. So just in the interest of time, for proposal 3, for the pull request itself, so Chris got back to us saying that he won't have time until after the 8th of October. I don't think that we should lose those 2 weeks. Maybe we can already we could, you know, merge some of this or make changes, merge it and then make changes, open new PRs to make changes. What do you think?
Yes, I think, you know, merging it will be good, and I can take on, you know, pushing it forward to the next stage until Chris is back, because Nikki, and also you're doing talks about Sustainability Week, and you've got that coming up as well. So I'm happy to, you know, work on proposal, you know, in the meantime, and we can start the, you know, the investigation about dev stats as well. But I think sort of process-wise, if we merge the current PR and create a fresh one, that will probably, you know, work kind of process-wise. And then when Chris is available again, I can sync with him and we can see what we go next.
Okay, perfect. That would be amazing. And there's already, I think, like some of this feedback can already be implemented in a follow-up PR, such as, yeah, all of this. Let's merge it and then make the changes ourselves, I would say. Thank you, Ross, for taking that on.
Yes, definitely, and I bring the feedback across, but yeah, because there's lots of useful feedback, you know, we've still got so far. So I'll just put a fresh PR based on this once it's merged.
Perfect. And I guess like what you've added here can go in the infrastructure section. So we have this.
Yes, definitely. I just kind of dumped it in the issue kind of short term because I thought we'd discuss in the meeting. But yeah, I'll get that into the next weekend.
Perfect. Great. And on the 2nd of October, it was requested if we could do a demo during the TAG meeting, or at least explain what we have in more detail. Well, how do we feel about this?
Yes, I think that might be like a little bit ambitious, but it would be nice to show something. I think it depends a little bit on the proposal too. If we are able to get, you know, if you and Flavia can work on the second issue and then we can get it working into it, we could, you know, trigger a pipeline run, and then what could we show? We would show kind of Falco being deployed, and then we would show the benchmarks being run. And maybe we could have that as the stretch goal, and then if that's not possible, we could kind of present where we are in the pipeline design. But yeah, with what we have currently, we would just have the deployment of Falco, Yeah, what do you think, Nick? Is that realistic?
Yeah, I think if Flavia and I can manage to do this issue before next Wednesday, which is kind of a lot to considering, you know, everything. We can always say that it, you know, if it's not possible, it's not possible, and I would prefer that we focus on doing rather than presenting. If we don't have, yeah, 1 week, 1 week to do this is a tough one. But I guess let's see, and if we're not able to, that's okay. I don't think it was a hard.
It's not much time, unfortunately. I mean, maybe we could just have an update. You know, have a kind of fallback option, which would be we can have an update of where we are with the proposal.
Yeah. So the context is just that we've been asked just a few times for a demo because people are interested in learning more about what we're doing. And yeah, just a like a more in-depth thing. That's yeah, the sustainability week is also a thing. Like I have to prepare slides and the talk for it, so really I'm kind of struggling to do everything. And yeah, showing what we have. Well, we can definitely show what we have, even if I guess if we haven't completed the issue. I mean, we could show our infrastructure. We've completed a lot already, even if we haven't done all of the automation pipeline. Yeah, I just don't think that I would have time to present because I have to also prepare for Sustainability Week.
Me too. But is this like a special event or is it just a normal TAG meeting?
It's a normal TAG meeting. I think that.
So there will be one every 2 weeks for till
yeah,
the rest of the year, so we can do it another time or not?
We can definitely do it another time. Also because yeah, doing it like a week before Sustainability Week is just too much since most of us are doing something for that. Leo?
Right. So I was just writing in one of the channels about the Sustainability Week channel how many folks already signed up, because so we have this virtual event, and last time I think 40 people or so joined. We hope to have a couple more people joining this time, or maybe it was less, maybe it was 30, I don't know. But we try to have a couple more folks this time. I don't know if this actually works out. But there are also speakers, so we will see how it goes. So Brandon, one of the creators of Kubernetes, is giving a talk, for example. Yeah, so not too sure how many people will sign up. But yeah, it's pretty relaxed because it's a virtual event similar to this one, just to have like a presentation, that's it. And also it does not need to be super long. 5 minutes, 10 minutes can be enough.
So I was referring to the regular TAG ENV meeting demo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different one.
Yeah. Whereas what you're saying, like I do think we should present something as part of the online Sustainability Week event. I'm not sure if it's happening before or after which yeah, I'm gonna have to look at the calendar, but so as part of Sustainability Week, I'm going to present about the working group, the updates that we have. And we can present that or part of that during the online event. I'm just going to update the slides that we created for KubeCon Europe.
Yeah.
And that's a good reminder. I need to find out who has those slides. I assume that's Chris and Antonio. Is anyone here interested in presenting that? The Sustainability Week online events, and present 5-10 minutes about green reviews?
Do you mean in our own local events?
I think in the online events. Leo, do you have a link by any chance? Or
Yeah,
or
I'm just
Valeria?
it's here. It's online. It's an online event. When is the date actually? 12th of October. So like in 3 weeks.
It's Saturday, no?
Wait, is this the last year? No, it's last
Yeah.
year's. Wait, I'm so confused. Yeah, Alessandro and Nancy and so on are organizing this, so I don't have all the details, but here it is. Now I have it 8th of October, so in 2 weeks. Let me delete the previous message.
That might be the same day as the Barcelona meetup. I think it is. So I can't present.
That's fine. I mean, like, there's also the option that we have this like in the introduction. So there's like some introduction slides of the event. And if nobody from the working group can talk about it, that's not an issue. We can
Yeah.
just have like 1 or 2 slides and should be fine. And then we can just redirect it to some documentation or whatever website and so on. That's okay.
We can contribute slides. That's great. Yeah. Also less load on us.
Less stress.
Less stress. Love that. And Leo, do you want to take the last point?
Right. So the tag is end of this month 2 years old. Actually a bit older because we had first like a working group and then it grew into a tag. So, but 2 years since the creation of the tag. I will also write some kind of message. We will also have like probably a new chair or a change of chairs of the tag. And we've been talking today a bit earlier between us about like the first year, the second year, and everything, like the progress of the tag and what could be like the vision coming forward or going forward. And we will talk about this a lot more in the next tag meeting. But one of the main things that we already kind of identified is meaningful outcome or meaningful content that we generate. This was like one of the main things that we always got feedback about. And I think like some initiatives, especially also this one around working group green reviews, contributes to this idea, generating more things that have content, more impact in the community. I think especially once we have the first project onboarded in the working group and we onboard then more projects afterwards, I think this should be easier, right? So the first project is the biggest challenge, and then hopefully over time it scales good enough. So with this, I think we can have quite a bit of impact, but I think we can improve on this a lot more. This is especially also a topic for working group comms, content generation in terms of, okay, we would like to talk about user stories and how this project, for example, changed over the year and how this affects sustainability, how this changes how we utilize energy consumption, because we have like some kind of algorithm which consumes resources in a specific way, and so on and so forth. So this is primarily like a thing for working group comms. However, this will also be, or I mean, this depends like how all of you would like to do this, but I think this also could be something to think about in terms of not just like giving updates about, okay, we are talking about proposal 2 and proposal 3, but perhaps also telling like a story about things that we learn or things that we, I don't know, thought about to design the system. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think this will be like the main focus of the working group. 100%, it's not the case, but maybe this could also attract some new contributors and could also give a bit additional value also to a community. Yeah, as I said, I think the value in the working group itself that we eventually have all these measurements, publish the measurements, maintainers can onboard their project if they like to, and then get feedback over our calculations. I think this already has a big impact, but maybe telling the story along the way could also be useful. Yeah.
I think the blog post that we did for KubeCon Europe has been a really great reference. I share it a lot. Actually, I shared it today. Someone asked if there are dashboards that help with software and sustainability, and I shared the blog post that we wrote together. And maybe, I don't know if we can do that twice a year for both KubeCons, but I think having one at least for KubeCon Europe would be great.
Yeah.
At least a yearly write-up. And anyway, also for KubeCon North America, like there's I'm pretty sure Siam and Marlo, right? They're doing one on,
yeah,
they're going to focus on green reviews also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like in the beginning of like starting the working group, there was like the discussion around we don't want to do consultancy. So if there's like a company is interested in measuring their own software and they come to the working group and ask like, how are you doing this and so on, and we were saying like this is like something that we don't want to do because we don't have the capacity to give consultancy to anybody, right? But maybe writing basically like we already do this like implicitly that we have transparency about how we approach these things. So this could also be eventually on the road at some point, maybe also be a blog post summarizing basically the design decisions. So more technical approach as well. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of good options, I guess. But yeah, we will see.
Yeah.
Maybe also on this note, But so we talked about, I think it's not too long ago, right? It's like half a year ago. We talked about, we made quite a, or maybe it's longer, I don't know, quite a lot of changes about this working group, how it works. We established like these proposals and everything. I think it works out quite well. But so in a way, there's like a roadmap and everything is kind of clear. But if there's like some things to change about the working group, this could also be a good time because it's like 2 years, I don't know, once a year, think about like everything that we do right now. Does it work out? Where like some pain points, and then we can plan ahead. But this depends like how all of you would like to do it, I guess. But we will think about it like in general of the tag. So for example, the landscape document will play, we need to focus on it a lot more in content generation as well. So yeah.
I think this group, and we've had this group for a year now. Since we started
Yep.
last September. We were writing the charter last summer, but so it's really a year. I think it's running itself really well. I think time is something we lack naturally, but I would say we're doing pretty well. I don't know if, well, we had a retro that one time. We did a retro, which was a good practice to do after KubeCon Europe, I think it was. I wonder if we should do that. I mean, it could be every 6 months or once a year, maybe. Every 6 months is maybe a better cadence. Yeah, after important milestones. So now we have KubeCon NA as a milestone. Let's definitely focus on that, and then we can do a retro after that. Yep. Nice. Perfect. Well, right on time.
Also one question. After so we are currently adding support for Falco, I guess. Falco, yeah. So after Falco, is there any other project which we are going to do benchmarking, or currently we haven't got anyone other than Falco?
I think in the roadmap we've said to do that after KubeCon NA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
think that'd be a good
Antonio,
topic for the retro as well. Just see what's new. We can check in again in the retro about what the next projects are and when that's realistic.
yeah. One of the big things that came out of the previous retro was to have better planning. That's why we're not going through these proposals, and then we can do a retro about that when we do a retro. Great. If we're at time, I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording.